tier weather, and
There's Laura.
Yeah.
so everything does well depending on what weather we're having.
Okay.
Have you called this far?
Okay.
Oh,
How many times?
twice.
No.
Oh, well, they should be
Should it?
popping in.
Maybe.
Shows- maybe it
Give a
doesn't show
couple
more than
minutes.
12.
Yeah, okay, because I know I called Kate like about 5 or 6 times.
Because I was waiting
I
for it.
figured somebody would eventually just pick up her phone because they get
Yeah,
irritated hearing
yeah.
ringing it over and over.
Okay, all
No.
right, thanks for
No,
letting me
that's
know.
only
All right,
two,
bye.
yeah.
Okay, because people.
Hi, guys. This is Travis. We're live right now.
Hi, Travis.
You're live now.
Hey, Sylvia. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks.
His lips aren't moving.
See. 1, 2, 3.
Well, just so everybody heard, we're live on YouTube right now.
Okay.
Oh, we're on YouTube? I thought we were going to be on Zoom.
We're on both.
We're on both. Yeah.
We're just waiting for a few more board members to.
We need
We're
these-
conducting the meeting on Zoom, but we're also live on YouTube.
Good.
All right, thank you.
One more to open.
Oh, oh.
If I knew how to share my screen, I would do it. But I don't think I can do it up here.
So just so you know, people that are not board members, I have allowed in to chat. So there's a number of people that were looking to come into the meeting, and they are allowed now to chat. And so when we begin the meeting after the presentation of the budget, there will be opportunity for the public to type in any questions they have.
And also for the public's awareness, we are not able to open just yet because we're still waiting for a quorum.
Just a quick follow-up to the chat function. If anybody from the public is going to ask questions, we require a name and address for the official record in there. So please type that in ahead of your question.
Elizabeth Einstein is from town prior.
Oh, okay. Now, is that YouTube? Or is that on?
That's on Zoom.
Okay.
People can-
Yeah, that's good. Now, is that the chat screen?
Yeah. So where is?
I need one more.
Mr. Turnbull's coming in now.
Hey, Tony. Hey, Tony.
There you are.
Yeah.
All righty.
And there's Cindy getting them all set up.
Yeah. And
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
All right, if
He
we can all
had some
stand for
trouble
the,
getting
right, for
on.
the pledge of the flag.
All right, I'm leaving him now. Bye.
I had a lot of trouble getting on.
Yeah, I had a little trouble too. It's a little
Pledge
different
allegiance
today.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to
America, and to the republic for which
one
it stands,
nation, under God,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, folks, thanks. Now we'll have we'll start the public hearing on the budget presentation. I'll turn it over to the superintendent, Jeff Everard.
Yes, good evening. Welcome to the public hearing on the 2021 budget. Tonight, we will have a presentation on the budget itself. And this is a balanced budget that's been put together with the main focus of maintaining all programs and staffing levels as much as possible. So it's a tough budget year coming up. For everybody that has listened to the news, the governor's daily address, one of our big concerns is that the state aid that has been designated for Vestal for next year may be adjusted. The governor has authority now for this coming year to adjust the state aid on a quarterly basis in relation to the loss of revenue for the state itself. So this budget, again, I want to stress, is to maintain programs and people. However, we will have a contingent plan in place if state aid is cut, that we have some way to try and address that. So we are hopeful that the federal government does put forward the next stimulus package, which his whole intent is to aid school programs for the coming year. So at this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to Assistant Superintendent Cliff Casson. We'll have the budget presentation.
Thank you, Superintendent Ahern. So tonight we have a public hearing budget presentation. So before we get started, our business official, Mr. Matthew Bechtel, will present many of these slides. And what we're going to do is he'll go through this presentation, and at the conclusion of the presentation, then if there's any questions from the public, I have opened up where you can input through chat, which means you can type any questions that you would have, and then we could answer those questions from that area once you at the conclusion of the presentation. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Mr. Bechtel, and he will share his screen so you'll be able to view the slides that we're speaking about.
All right, can everybody see my screen and hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So again, to emphasize what the superintendent mentioned before, our focus on this budget was to bring forward a balanced budget for the coming year while we're able to maintain our programming for our students and our staffing level for our faculty and other staff. So this year, final budget is $80,582,859. That's a budget to budget increase of 2.8%, a little bit over almost 2.2 million. This represents a tax levy increase of 2.17%. So the tax levy is 2.17% greater than the prior year. Tax levy for 2021, $48,596,537. It's a $1.03 million increase. Excuse me. I apologize, scratching my throat. Tax levy increase of 2.17%. So this slide shows a 4-year trending history of our tax levy limit and our actual tax levy. So the blue line on top is what the maximum allowable levy was for the previous 4 years, including this year, as well as what we actually went out at. For revenue sources, again, a $1.03 million increase to the tax levy, 2.17%. State aid, about $818,000. This includes projected increases in expenditure-driven aids like BOCES aid, transportation aid, and building aid. One big change that we're seeing in here is a difference in appropriated fund balance. This is a mechanism to have money on hand for the following year. It's an annual budget item with our target being 1.5 million. Last year, you'll see that there was 1.976, and that was related to some work that we did, one-time spending. $100,000 is towards a secure vestibule at Clayton Ave and a drainage project at Glenwood. On to expenditures. Equipment is staying flat. Contractual is slightly down, and this is predominantly moving some of our residential placements into other BOCES programs and moving from tuition to some other budget lines. BOCES aid or BOCES line is up predominantly due to increases in CTE, alternative education, and additional technology and educational support. One item we're seeing here is an increase in TRS. This was expected from last year. And unemployment. The change in interfund transfers is predominantly related to those two one-time projects, the $476,000 that we discussed before with the appropriated fund balance from last year. So overall expenditures, a 2.80% increase from budget to budget. Three-part summary, about 74% is programs, 15.4% capital, and 10.2% administrative. You see a slight decrease in capital from this year, from last year to this year. And the difference in that is predominantly related to the fact that we had an interfund transfer to capital for those projects last year. At Glenwood and Clayton Ave. So for capital improvements, annually we do a small $100,000 capital project. Doing these projects annually allows us to update our buildings, and the advantage is that it allows us to receive the aid on that in the following year. So on a $100,000 project, we would receive about $60,000 back in the following year. So this year we'll be doing HVAC building controls. It'll be phase 1 of 3 at the Vestal High School. These are controls that overlay our HVAC system and better allow us for heating and ventilation. We just wanted to know also that the ongoing construction that's going on right now is not part of this current year's budget. So it's a totally different budget, totally different account of funds. So STAR exemption on school taxes, currently with the enhanced STAR, Vestal is at the max, it's $13.84. We're seeing a $1 increase in basic STAR from $675 to $676. What this means for a tax impact, this is based on 2019-20 full value. With on a $100,000 house, we're looking at approximately a $48, $49 increase in taxes. And on a $200,000 house, it's about a $96, $97 increase in school taxes. So with this being said, we wanted to just point out a couple of things with this budget. Again, we have a balanced budget. One of the items that we are using is some reserve funds in order to get through the current climate, but we are maintaining all program and staffing levels. We're enhancing some instructional technology and support, and we're keeping within the proposed tax levy compliant. We're compliant with the maximum allowable levy. We continue to have a fiscal stress score of 0, so we have no designation from the OSC. And importantly, our Moody's credit rating is AA2. This allows us to secure favorable borrowing rates. So for any of the capital project work that we're working on where we need to borrow funds in order to move that project along, the district does enjoy better rates because of that bond rating. I'm going to go back here to revenues just to go over this one more time. And again, 2.17% increase in the tax levy. Pilots, we don't have any new pilots, even though there's a 19% increase here. The real reason for that is changes to the actual pilot schedules. So each pilot has a different structure. For instance, one may be they pay 50% for the first 5 years, 75 for the next 5, and then they come back on the tax rolls fully. This is just fluctuations in those changes. Other revenue I do want to point out, this $151,000 decrease in other revenue, particularly related to expectations that we will have less in interest earnings in the coming year due to the market, the current market status. And also, one thing I missed before that I did want to bring up here, this $736,000 in appropriated reserves. This is new for this year over the past few. This is use of some of our reserve funds. This is what we have them for. We're using them to balance the budget without having to make material cuts to our programs and staffs. So this is going to be a use predominantly of the employees' retirement reserve. So to pay employer rates, employer contribution rates for the employee retirement system, as well as a small amount of the unemployment reserve. I mentioned before that the TRS rates, this was expected to go up. Last year we had projected that there would be an increase in TRS rates. So this is for every dollar that we spend on a teacher or administrator salary, we do have to contribute towards the retirement system, the pension fund for that. So there's an established rate every year. We anticipated this rate going up, and it is. We do anticipate both of these rates will be going up next year because of the market. Interfund transfers down $576,000. This again is related to the projects that we did last year, one-time projects, one being drainage at Glenwood, one being funds for secure vestibule at Clayton Avenue, which construction will be getting underway shortly. So we're seeing a large reduction there, but these were really related to one-time spending. So it's not a reduction in work that we were doing. It's a reduction in what we're transferring to the capital fund. So with that, I'm going to move forward into proposition number 1. Proposition number 1 is the total annual budget, $80,582,859. The contingency budget situation for proposition number 1 is $79,550,502. So this would represent a 1.5% increase from the prior year and $1.1 million increase. It's about $1 million lower than what the current budget is comprised at. However, it's important to note that this $1 million is broken down throughout the program capital administrative component of the budget. The majority of the cuts would be required to be taken out of the program, which is everything that goes in to support our programming and our students. Capital Capital is everything that keeps our buildings running. And administrative would be, principal salaries, legal, different insurance items of that nature. So under contingency budget, districts are not allowed to purchase equipment. We cannot purchase any additional classroom supplies or materials. We have to require payment for outside groups to use district facilities. One of the things that we do now is for all youth sports that are predominantly Vestal youth age sports teams, we do not charge them to use our facilities. We would have to do that under the contingency budget. And the district also is not allowed to complete that $100,000 capital project. So why that's important to note is we wouldn't be able to start our building controls project on time next year. We would also lose $60,000 of state aid in the following year for 21-22. Proposition number 2 is a purchase of school buses. We have 4 70-passenger buses and 2 35-passenger buses with wheelchair lifts that will be part of this proposition at a cost not to exceed $920,150. And for board member election, we have 3 seats open on the board with 3 candidates: Linda Dano, Sylvia Place, and Tony Turnbull, all incumbents. And finally, to note, the budget vote deadline is to be cast as absentee ballots. Now, this is part of the governor's executive order. There will be no in-person voting. Ballots will all be by absentee. The district office will be mailing out ballots to all qualified voters of the district with prepaid return envelopes, and there will be specific voter instructions included in with the ballots when they're mailed out. So those will be mailed out on Friday, this Friday, May 29th. And in order for them to be officially counted, they must be received by the district office by 5 p.m. on June 9th. So in order to make sure that those votes will be counted, we would encourage that they return timely. And with that, I don't know, Cliff, if there are any questions.
Yes. And Mr. Bechtel, could you unshare your screen? Because right now I can't see. There we go. Yes. Thank you. And I know we have a couple more people that want to attend. I'm just going to bring them in as chat. Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Bechtel. And so now if anyone would like to type a question, they could do that. And please remember to list your name and your address for the record, please. Again, if anyone would like to ask a question, now's the time to do so. You can type a question, just list your name and your address first. Can everyone see there is a question? And if you can't see that, I can read that. Could we ask how many people are attending is the question. So right now we have 10 attendees and 9 panelists.
Okay, click on chat. Chat, just leave it on.
Can everyone see the next question from Dr. Kelly Smith? If you can't see it, I will read it to you. It says, what does this budget include to prepare for the obvious implications of the ongoing global pandemic, social distancing, increased and improved remote learning, staggered class days, staggered teams, etc. This will be costly and will be required to open schools in the fall until there is a vaccine. So I can speak a little bit about that. We do have in this, we have an increase through our BOCES services for technology support. And with that, that will aid us in communicating on how we promote remote learning if that's necessary for the fall. So we have ensured that we do have those resources in place to help guide us in that direction to ensure that every child gets the best education possible at Vestal Central School District. So that is in this budget.
If I could add too, Cliff, is that the startup for fall, there's still a lot that is unknown at this point in time. The first question is, will we be able to open up traditional classrooms or will it look like the virtual instruction that we are finishing up this school year with? We're still waiting for guidance from the state on that. That has not come out yet. But whoever wrote this in is exactly correct. This could be a costly endeavor for the school district. But there's really no way to plan at this point in time until we get the guidelines and have a better idea of what the do's and the don'ts are for holding instruction. So we're waiting for that instruction, that guidance from the state ed department. And as soon as that comes out, we'll start working on that.
Thank you, Superintendent Ahern. Another question here from Carol Strano. Why did employment go up so much? I think to mean unemployment. Mr. Bechtel, do you want to answer that?
Sure. Typically, we do not experience a high level of unemployment claims here in the district. But we do anticipate that we will see some more unemployment claims. Now, I don't want that to be confused with any anticipation that we are making layoffs, but we do anticipate that there will be more unemployment claims filed over the next 6 months at a minimum.
Thank you. Here's another question from Leslie Lander and states, has there already been expenditure providing tablets or computers to students? So I can start with that. So yes, we have deployed over 1,100 Chromebooks this school year to students to utilize for home learning. And with that, obviously, we're looking at our budget of purchasing more Chromebooks. So that is part of our technology budget to purchase some more for next school year. So we have a larger supply. We do have within our district approximately 2,000 Chromebooks for student use that has predominantly been within the classroom setting K-12. So yes, we will be purchasing more Chromebooks this coming summer.
Folks, I'd like to bring up that there are 3 questions posted in the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. It may be the same citizen asking. I'm not sure if anyone else could see those questions.
I do not see them.
Oh, I see him.
It's on the bottom. It's on the bottom bar. It's
Oh, okay.
Extra participants?
Yeah, it may be the same person. I'm not sure.
Okay. I do see them now.
Oh,
So thank you, Dino. Bill Marabito asks, what will be the fund balance?
Okay, so I can talk to that question a little bit. One of the things that will be required or is required to be posted on our property tax report card is any balances in our reserves, so that it's part of the fund balance. Another piece of the fund balance is also that appropriated fund balance. So that's current year funds that is used as a revenue item. It's an annual revenue item of 1.5 million. That's another component. There's also assigned fund balance. That's things that we've cut purchase orders for, but have not been fulfilled or not paid by July 1st. So they carry over, but they are assigned to a specific expenditure. And then there is unassigned fund balance. So unassigned fund balance is something that we're closely monitoring right now. Typically, we have a target of about 3.7% of the next year's budget. That's generally under, a little bit under 3 million. We don't have that number right now. We are actually meeting with our financial team at the central business office tomorrow morning to go over that. But a lot of that is in flux right now with the current state of affairs. So, to go back to a question about how are we planning for the coming year for any potential increases in expenditures due to the current pandemic, that could have a significant impact either up or down depending on where we need to go moving forward with regards to the fund balance. So I don't know if that was a good answer, but I think that that's about the best answer that I can provide to address the fund balance question right now.
Thank you, Matt. The next question we have under the Q&A is, what was the student population 5 years ago?
Cliff, that's something that we could get the feds data, and we could respond back to that. Just for people's information, is that over the past 2 to 3 years, our population, our especially our elementary population, has grown somewhat. So in comparison to 5 years ago, our numbers will likely be slightly increased from that number. But let's see if we can get the beds data. That's official data taken every October, and we can send that information out. We can post it to our website.
Thank you, Superintendent Ahern. Along the same person had a similar question. It says, any plans to close and combine elementary schools? And I do believe you answered that. You said that there actually has been an increase of attendance at a population in our elementary buildings.
Yeah. At this point, there's no discussion on closing elementary schools. Our numbers are up. There's no way that we could close a particular building and move kids around and fit them in the remaining buildings themselves. Our population is pretty full at this point in time. We have one building that we're pretty much maxed out. So there's no discussions to close the building.
Great. Thank you. So we have another question here, Dr. Kelly Smith, and says, do you anticipate budgeting the costs for regular testing of students, teachers, staff, etc., if you are mainly planning for face-to-face instruction? We are also hoping for the option for online learning for our 3 children until there is a vaccine, but recognize it does not work for all kids. So do we anticipate budgeting the cost for regular testing of students and teachers and staff? And that's something that we would follow the guidance of a Broome County Health Department. If that is the case, then we would make sure, if that's a mandate, then we definitely would follow that. And if that's best practices for safety and welfare of students and staff, then we definitely would do that in the fall, if that's something that Broome County Department of Health is recommending.
Just to follow up on that, I think one of the items that the superintendent had touched on earlier in the meeting is that this is a balanced budget. While we are looking to follow all guidelines, there are going to obviously be some contingencies. if there's state aid cut, or if there's additional regulations or requirements put in place, that we would have to work on plans of how do we accommodate them.
Any other questions?
So those were some great questions, and at this time, I do not see any other questions coming through.
Cliff, we have a hand up.
Okay.
Hand up.
Do you see who that is, Matt?
Hand up.
It says Deb. But I don't see it up now.
I don't see it now.
Okay.
Another question did come through right now, and it's from Leslie Lander. And the question is, has there been a need for more counseling and psychiatric help? And so I can answer on, and maybe Dr. Lamash could follow up. I know she's been working with counselors and principals, but I do know that our counselors have reached out to any students at risk. And we did ask our teachers from K-12 to work with their principals, and if there's any students while they're Zooming or emailing them, if there's any issues, anything they see with students that would cause some concern, to let the principals know, and then have counselors reach out to students. And with that, we did make sure we accounted for every student, meaning that teachers were communicating with the students on a regular basis. So we've been doing that during this time of school building closure to ensure that if there's anything that we need to help support a family or support students, then we would do so. And that included by, meals and Chromebooks, those type of devices, and then also any support from our counselors or school psychologists. So I don't know if you have anything else to add, Dr. Lamash, if you want to add something to that.
So that question then, has there been a need for more? I think it's more, but it's also different. And really looking at, as Mr. Casson noted, right now, a lot of our resources dedicated to supporting students presently, but to also be assured that just even today I met with counselors and our social worker to evaluate what steps we need to take going forward, especially this summer, looking at some strategies for engaging students over the summer, and then also in preparation for next year. So certainly there's a need for more, and also a need for something different from what we've typically done in the past in terms of helping students cope with some of the stress and anxiety associated with school closure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I might add too that our SRO program has offered a lot of support services here too. We're very thankful for having our 3 SROs helping out.
The only other thing that I would add to that is the question about, is there a cost? Yes, there's obviously a cost, but it is what we're currently budgeting for and have in the prior years. We are working with our own staff that we have on, with our counselors and our SROs and our social workers and our school psychologists.
Yeah, thank you for that, because that was the next question was, is there a cost? So yeah, it is within our staff right now is working with students and families.
I'm going to just also add that over the last 2 years, we've increased our support staff We've increased our SROs, we added a social worker, we added an additional counselor at the high school. And we now have a psychologist for every building, which is is atypical of the region. So in many ways, we're well positioned to deal with this situation because over the last few years, we've been building a lot of supports. So we are positioned well right now for that.
Yes, you're right. Thank you for that. We're just waiting to see if there's any other questions, but I just want to put a shout out for everyone that is supporting our families and students, from our teachers, support staff, our principals and admin. I mean, it's a district support. Our entire district is reaching out to support and to make sure that our students are educated to the highest levels possible. And it really, it's been phenomenal watching what our district has done here, and just want to shout out for everyone that's doing a great job.
So, Mr. Casson, if that concludes the questions that we have at this point in time, we'll wrap up the budget presentation. I want to say thank you to everybody that's been involved in putting the budget together. Our administrative staff, our business office, and echo what Mr. Casson has said. Thank you to our students and parents in our community for all the support that they put forward during this trying time, and we really appreciate it, and it shows a lot of pride in the district itself. So that being said, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, and let's I just want a comment that was made by Chad and Kelly Smith. Vestal teachers have done an extraordinary job. Thank you, and thanks for taking questions. Thank you for the recognition. We appreciate that. So that will conclude the budget presentation. I'll turn it back over to board president.
All right, so I will, future meetings, we have our June 11th meeting. That's a 10 a.m. It's a regular meeting, but it's going to be a special one on Thursday morning due to the special circumstances of our vote and collecting our vote count. And so that'll also be another Zoom meeting that will be conducted here. Tuesday, June 23rd is a 7 p.m. regular meeting. Tuesday, July 7th is a reorganization meeting. And so after we reconvene our next term, that'll be our reorganization meeting right there. And so if I could please have a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Sylvia and Linda, questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? I see the shadow there. All right, folks, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, so we're gonna close.